Hey guys, this is Alex, and welcome to the Two Dudes, Brews Reviews podcast. On today's episode, we're talking about Darren Aronofsky's 2008 psychological drama, The Wrestler. If you like what you hear, consider subscribing to the podcast. Leave us a rating and review, and maybe even tell your friends about us. With that being said, we hope you enjoy the show.
Speaking of something different, your film that you recommended.
Before we hop into that...
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
I actually don't remember what the name of this beer is.
It's a Rhinegeist. It's called Infinite Dawn. It's a sour blonde. Something I prohibited you from drinking last time I was over here because I brought it and I was like, you don't need that.
I was so far gone.
You were inaudible.
I felt like my IQ had been reduced down to like single digits. It was really bad.
Hey, it's pretty good. It's a sour.
We were watching the Royal Rumble and I was getting pretty rowdy.
It's a lot of fun. That was a good time.
Yeah, it was.
Speaking of good times, this movie. Speaking of wrestling.
Yeah, I recommended for tonight to do The Wrestler, the 2008 Darren Aronofsky film starring Ricky Bobby, Micky Rourke, of course. Before we get into like the finer details of things, we can just get into like general thoughts about how we felt about it.
You're more engrossed in the wrestling world than I am. I was expecting like him to be part of the WWE or something, but instead it felt more like just amateur, even though like it had been implied that he was on the top at one point. It's not like this world is associated with any some sort of like organization like WWF or...
Yeah, and they're probably not allowed to like mention them by name. Some of the organizations that do appear are real, like Ring of Honor and then CCW. Those are all like real indie-ish promotions. They make a comment about him wrestling at Madison Square Garden, and I think that's what implies he was like in the WWF because they exclusively run, like there's no other wrestling company is able to book shows at Madison Square Garden.
Okay. There was just some things that rubbed me the wrong way about the film. I knew going in that it was going to be a tragic story, without a doubt. Like I've heard this movie been mentioned by name multiple times, just in different like media consumption, like YouTube, but I've never really ever heard anybody talk about it outside of like, oh, Micky Rourke. Yeah, they always associate with him to the film, and so I don't know. He's an actor that like has never really shown up anywhere for me outside of like Iron Man 2.
Same,
which was like around the same time. I think it was like the year after. Was like 2009.
Yeah, something
when it came out, like 2007, maybe it was the year before, or maybe it was the same year. I can't remember. But
and Iron Man 2 kind of sucks.
Yeah. For some reason, I thought like Micky Rourke was like Russian though. So like,
hey man, he's just that good.
Yeah, stellar actor. I don't know. I guess I was more curious for you what you thought, just based off like the wrestling angle, because you have more of a history with like the sport than I do.
Yeah, I've been an on and off wrestling fan for most of my life.
Yeah.
I mean, from like age 9 to 13, I was a huge fan. And then I think they did like this stupid segment on Raw one time where they had a Donald Trump impersonator wrestle a Rosie Donald. Is that her last name? Rosie O'Donnell, an impersonator of her. And it was like just the worst thing I'd ever seen at the time. And I didn't watch wrestling again for about a decade.
Really?
Yeah.
I will say, like, when we watched it, it was a lot of fun. I think the suspension of disbelief is something that everybody has to agree upon while watching it. Like, it's just a good quality, like, white trash drama. It's like if Jerry Springer had, like, a storyline.
It's like really thin soap opera storylines mixed with like a stunt show in the middle of the ring under the disguise of a sport, basically.
It's like monster trucks with people.
Yeah, kind of.
And I don't know. There is something like kind of fun about that, and I think it's something that can be like easily wrote off. I will say, I think me and a sober Austin would be like kind of like write it off.
Yeah.
Like in a way where it's like, that's just not for me. But like, if you get me in the right situation, per se, with a good friend of mine and a couple of drinks, like, fuck yeah, I'm all about it, man.
Yeah.
So I feel like I had a little bit of respect going in, just based on the fact that we watched the Rumble last time I was here. And I don't know, there was some things I appreciated about it for that reason. But like, I will say generally, I don't know that I actually really liked the film.
Ooh, okay. I have my critiques, and I'll definitely bring those in, but I'm interested in why that is. Because, like, for the first 30 to 40 minutes, I was, like, really fucking loving it.
Same.
I was thinking, man, like, I'm really going to end up, like, giving this a 10 or something at the end of all this. Just because, like, it portrays wrestling the most realistically I've ever seen in a film. I mean, like, in other things, it's usually, like, the butt of a joke.
Yeah. Definitely takes a respectable road. But I also think the times where it's, like, extremely depressing kind of rubbed me the wrong way.
Did it, like, veer too far into, like, misery porn type stuff?
It took the words, like, right out of my mouth. I mean, I really loved a lot of about the first hour and 10 minutes. And I think once things start to unravel, I started to lose a little bit of respect because I did think it was kind of delving too deep into, like, misery porn.
Okay.
Like, I'm not very familiar with Aronofsky. I'm trying to think of another film that I've seen by him.
I think you told me you've seen Black Swan, right?
Yeah. I was not old enough to, like, really even understand, though, at that point in time.
It's kind of interesting because Black Swan is sort of a companion piece to this movie.
I heard it's a good double feature.
I mean, you got character studies kind of showing someone obsessed with art to the point of, like, hurting themselves or
Other people.
Yeah, and I think what's really cool about the two of them is that wrestling is usually considered like one of the lowest art forms. And then in Black Swan, you've got ballet, which is like very uppity,
prestige,
like, high-end type shit. Yeah, you've never seen Requiem for a Dream, though, right?
No, and I heard that film is absolutely heartbreaking. And I, like, I actually refuse to watch it.
If you thought this one was miserable, then you would fucking hate that movie. I didn't find the wrestler to be that miserable, really. And maybe it's because I watched it 2 nights after watching Von Trier's Dancer in the Dark, which was like one of the most misery porn-ish movies I've ever seen in my life, probably. So this felt relatively tame compared to that. I think the drawbacks that I had with this one is I was really let down by the melodrama. Like, with, like, the estranged daughter and the love interest, I think that stuff fell really flat for me.
Same.
For the most part.
And that's kind of where a lot of my criticism lies. And I think why it's so impactful with, like, my reception of the film is because the movie spends a lot of time developing that.
Dude, the entire second act is all that.
I don't know. I found it kind of frustrating. I think there was a lot of stuff that was super charming. The reason I don't resonate with stuff that is just straight misery is because if there's not, like, an ounce of hope and integrity by the end, I'm kind of like, yeah, fuck, like, this is fucking stupid. One of my favorite films is fucking misery porn, and that's Manchester by the Sea. Like, the movie's just fucking sad.
Oh, yeah, that's a depressing one.
But in the end, I felt like everything's gonna be okay. Everybody's gonna move on. And this film, I'm just like, wow, okay. By the end, I'm like, well, there goes that.
Yeah. Yeah, I was let down by that shit, man, because all the wrestling stuff in the first hour was so authentic to, like, real backstage shit. One of my favorite scenes in the whole movie, it's like showing behind the scenes before the first on-screen match, and it's all the guys going over the match before they go out, like, hey man, like, you should work the neck because no one ever does that. Getting, like, the cheap heat. I don't know if you, like, understood a lot of these phrases and shit. It got the lingo down. I think a lot of these guys that were, like, in that scene are actual like, indie wrestlers. But yeah, it sucks that it diverts the focus away in the middle. I don't know. We can get into, like, Randy the Ram, the character, if you want to.
I think Mickey Rourke does a great job, without a doubt. I felt like he was authentic to his role the entire time. Like, it was great. Him as a character was extremely likable, despite his flaws. What's really frustrating to me is how many people, like, write him off. It was frustrating to watch his character go through that, and I think ultimately it frustrated me by the end. I mean, he's not, like, a good guy, but, like, he's trying to be, I guess. He's a tough character to read. Like, you empathize with him, but at the same time, it's like his daughter is kind of right.
Fucking ignored her for probably 20 years. I mean, how old do you think this character is supposed to be? Evan Rachel Wood?
Probably, like, late 50s. Oh, you mean the daughter?
Yeah. Like, damn, she's looking good for 50.
She an old fuck. Probably, I don't know, probably 24, 25.
with Randy, I think they really could have gone down a shittier path with this character. Like, I was expecting, especially after it shows him in that first scene where like the promoter comes up and he says like, "Sorry, man, the gate wasn't as much money tonight as I thought." And I immediately think, okay, he's gonna be like bitter, broken down, asshole type character. But then it like shows him 10 minutes later like playing with these kids at the trailer park, and it's like weirdly wholesome in a way.
Yeah.
Like, I'm glad they didn't go down like the most depressing route we could have.
Yeah.
Like, Randy's a dick.
And I think the opening shot where him in the chair?
I think so. It shoots to like 20 years later.
I think there's some really great cinematography moments with stuff like that. I think the way the film opens up, I was expecting him to like be like him owing everybody money, because I think the film kind of implies that, but it seems like nothing ever really goes wrong for him outside of his relationship with Pam/Cassidy and his daughter. Like, everything else just feels like he's doing okay for himself, I guess. I mean, he owes people money for performance-enhancing drugs. He works at what seems to be a grocery store in the back, ends up at the deli counter.
Provide some interesting scenes later on, for sure. I mean, he owes money to like his landlord, which did you notice this? The landlord is played by Mark Margolis, aka Don Hector from Breaking Bad.
No, I didn't even. I saw him on the credits list, but I couldn't pinpoint where.
Dude, I couldn't figure it out either. And I rewatched it last night knowing that he was the landlord. And in the scene he appears in, I should say, because of the handheld nature of like the way that scene is shot, like he's completely out of focus. Like you can't even fucking tell it's him.
Yeah.
And I think this is before he was Don Hector.
Yeah.
So I think he was kind of like one of those washed up like 80s mafia movie guys.
When did Breaking Bad start? Was it 2011?
I think 2008 was the first season.
Really?
Yeah. And then he shows up in like the first episode of season 2, which would have been like a year or two later. But yeah,
Gotcha.
Very weird casting choice with the future in mind.
I don't know. I think I kind of like found the trailer park lifestyle kind of charming in a way. Like, he's kind of been forgotten by time, dude. Like, these kids are talking about like Call of Duty and stuff, and he has like a Super Nintendo. Like, speaking of Super Nintendo, I think that's a great point to bring up, where like it always seems like he's trying to relate things back to wrestling. He's always trying to like feel good about himself, propping himself up, his ego.
Yeah, well,
by
I'm
like
sure
little
it hurts.
actions like this. Yeah,
It has to hurt to be a star and then end up like wrestling in a gymnasium later on. Yeah, like in that conversation he has with Cassidy at the strip club, like the first time he goes to see her, he can't stop bringing up like his injuries over the years, like diverting the conversation like, "Oh yeah, you think that's bad? Check out this scar I got wrestling the Ayatollah." I guess I can see why someone would do that.
Yeah, and I think another thing with that is I thought their relationship at the beginning was implying like, oh, like he's a regular for sure, but like maybe they were kind of friends, I guess. Like it kind of felt odd, a little bizarre. By the middle of their relationship, I don't know how you even describe it, but just as they develop more on-screen time, it becomes apparent that like he's kind of a nuisance to her. And I think that makes those earlier scenes even weirder.
Yeah, for sure.
Like him showing up and being like, "Hey, you gotta fucking treat the lady nice. What are you doing?" Like, I'm like, "Oh, that's fucking weird."
Can't take no for an answer.
Yeah.
And it kind of makes me question why like she decides to go for it with him in the end. Like I don't know if I bought that completely. Like her rushing to that last match that he has to profess her love to him. I don't know. I just didn't buy it at all.
Yeah, me neither. It just felt kind of disconnected. And that's the other thing. I was really trying to wrap my head around like why this film is like critically acclaimed.
Yeah, I was surprised because I think this is his most acclaimed movie, 98% on Rotten Tomatoes, multiple Academy Award nominations at least. Marisa Tomei was nominated for Best Supporting. I find that odd because I didn't really think she was great. She was fine, but not amazing.
You know what it is? I think it might just be because it's a product of its time.
You think so?
Because I think in 2008, films like this were they were the shit.
Yeah.
Like these were the Cannes Film Festival, not artsy, but like gritty, leaned really heavy. Like think about like the music that was popular at this time, like fucking dad rock and like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true.
That kind of, I think that might be why.
The 2010s definitely made things a little bit weirder, I think, like in terms of mainstream acceptability. Yeah, I don't know. I thought that critically it was a little overrated.
Yeah, I don't know. it was frustrating for those reasons. Don't get me wrong, like, Marisa Tomei, she's great. Her role in like Crazy Stupid Love is one of my favorites that she's in.
I always forget that she's in that.
She plays the teacher. I think that's like one of the best rom-coms there is.
I agree. Was it weird seeing Aunt May naked?
Not at all. Not at all, my friend.
You know, I don't buy for a second that a bunch of college dudes would consider her to be like this broken down old stripper. Like, if you wanted to have that dialogue, you needed to cast a different actress.
I agree.
She's
very nice.
You know, pardon me, but like fucking smoking, man. Not a thing I say very often.
Yeah, she's a good looking girl.
She still looks amazing.
Yeah, I know. That's why I never bought her as Aunt May.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, she's too young. I mean, I know they were trying to play like the new age like aunt.
No, she needs to be old and frail.
Yeah. Like they also like played up her sex appeal with like Happy and Spider-Man and stuff. Like, yeah. So it's kind of out of touch. I like the Aunt May from the Tobey Maguire, Sam Raimi. Like, she's real Aunt May. Aunt May from Into the Spider-Verse as well. You don't want Aunt May to be a smoke show. It's weird.
For some reason, I can't remember Aunt May in the Spider-Verse movie.
She's just an old lady, for sure.
Oh, doesn't a bunch of shit go down
in her house?
Yeah. That's right.
And honestly, like, this is kind of an odd frustration of mine, but like, I could have done without all the nudity and all the strip club shit. Like, at a certain point, it became distasteful. I think early on, it would have been okay.
This is that trashy mid-2000s type thing.
It just kind of felt like a little too much for me.
I think every time we returned to it after that first scene, I kind of groaned a little bit, like, oh, God.
It's like cheap.
I've never been to the strip club. I don't know about you.
Nope.
It's not my thing.
Nope.
I do not want to pay money to be blue-balled for hours on
end.
I
literally thought about what would it be like. I'm like, who would I go to the strip club with? I'm like, I guess it would have to be Getter. And then I was like thinking about, I'm like, there's no way I could sit next to you and be like, look at the fucking tits on that one. I fucking couldn't do it, dude.
Is this like a new age thing, like our generation?
I think, dude. Strip clubs are just gross.
I used to get invited to go all the time when I was like early 20s, like 18, 19. And I always found an excuse not to go. I'm good. I don't need to.
It's just fucking weird. It's like a waste of money.
Yeah. It's definitely a mid-2000s thing.
It's not my thing.
Like, how do we make this movie gritty? Let's just film scenes of the strip club, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think dialogue-wise, it was, like, pretty great. I thought the script was really tight.
I think for the most part, yeah. Some of the dialogue with, like, Evan Rachel Wood, I think was kind of badly written. Like, the first time he goes to visit her.
Yeah.
Because if she's in her mid-20s, the way her tantrum at him is written feels like she's like a 15-year-old in a way. You asshole, Dad, where you been? I don't know. It felt like it wasn't age appropriate for the character, the way she was portrayed. It felt more childish than anything.
Yeah. To me, it didn't really bother me that much. I think I kind of viewed it in a way of, this is a trauma response.
Yeah, and that's true too.
Like trauma, when you can't get past it, you end up like upholding the personality of like that kid that you were. You have a tantrum because you haven't been able to like emotionally process shit. I don't know.
We also don't know how long it had been since the last time he actually saw her.
Yeah. And that's another thing too. I thought at points the film almost implied that this has been cyclical.
He shows up every couple of years to make amends and fucks it up.
Yep.
Yeah.
I kind of felt that, but then at the same time I was like, I don't know if they were really going for that. I don't know. It was a little vague. And I think that that's one of the reasons why the ultimate, like, the severing of that relationship kind of felt a little out of touch. The film's runtime is like an hour and 49. Feeling like I didn't have enough time to kind of feel like these relationships were being built in a way that was like natural. They kind of felt forced via the plot. Like I could have gone another 20 minutes. I wanted like a couple more scenes with the daughter and Pam. So it's just kind of frustrating for me in that way. Because in the last 20 minutes, it's like, oh, we got to go do this show now.
Yeah, the ending is really rushed.
Yeah.
I mean, this is only, about an hour and 45 minutes, maybe?
Yeah, I mean, by the time a credit rolls.
And it doesn't even hit the 2-hour mark, and I feel like it really could have used that. One of the big failings with, like, these two relationships that he has in the movie, I think can be summed up by a movie I just saw recently called Barton Fink by the Coen brothers. It's about a screenwriter, or he's a playwright that is hired to go to Hollywood. Ironically enough, he's hired to write a wrestling movie, and the Hollywood CEO guys are talking to him. It's John Turturro who plays Barton Fink, and they say, okay, there's one thing you have to have in the movie. you can either choose to have like a romantic interest or a child. And then Turturro says, why not both? And then everybody looks at him like he's an idiot. The wrestler did both.
Yeah.
Like, we really could have cut one of them.
Yeah, that's true. Like, there was the angle of her having kids. Like, you could have played that up, like, make their relationship deeper, where, like, maybe he meets the child or something. I don't know. It just felt a little too disconnected. All of a sudden, she's had a change of mind. And don't get me wrong, I think him showing up with like the thank you card and all that good stuff, you know, going out, helping him pick out some clothes, like he needs a caretaker, somebody to give him direction, which like I thought like that was an angle that was played up really well. Like even the daughter says like, you need somebody to take care of you. You know, where were you for me? Blah, blah, blah. Like that's all fine and dandy, but I don't know. It kind of felt like the support systems needed to be built up for them to fall apart. And I feel like you didn't get enough.
We just didn't have enough time for both of them. I mean, think about if all that time had been devoted just to one of these.
Yeah.
I think as much as I like Marisa Tomei, get her out of the movie, and then I think the father-daughter relationship would have been a lot more meaningful than like romantic interest.
Yeah, and also like the first time he can talk her into spending some time with her felt like really rushed. Like all of a sudden he was like pouring his heart out, which like, don't get me wrong, I think the delivery was great, but like you could have let a moment build up to that, and then the tragic downfall of him not showing up would have been more impactful. Because once he fucks up, I'm like that happened really quick to the point where to me it didn't have like an emotional impact.
Same.
And then I think that scene would have been more impactful if it were for some more time to let it simmer. And the same thing with Pam, like him blowing up in the strip club would have felt more impactful if we just had more time. It's like that was frustrating.
Yeah, because after that, I didn't really understand why she went back to him, because it felt like he was worse in the end. Like he didn't really have much of a gesture to like convince her to like come back and profess her love, like that kind of thing.
Yeah, it was all like her kid was playing with the action figure. It seems like a little bit of a stretch.
Yeah, that was a cheap screenwriting trick right there, which sucks because like we've said, the acting in most of these scenes is pretty stellar for the most part. I mean, I think you said it a second ago, but that scene with Mickey Rourke and Evan Rachel Wood when they're like down by the water and he's like talking about how much he fucked up, that little monologue he gives is delivered beautifully.
Yeah.
Like it's awesome, but it's trying to strengthen a storyline that like is just completely flat. Yeah, that sucks, man. I think this movie has like a lot of potential to be better than what it ended up being. We're doing a lot of shit talking here. Any positives you want to bring up? Like good scenes?
Yeah, we'll come back. I'll grab another beer and we'll come back on a positive note.
Piss break.
Positive. We gotta be nice.
Yeah, the good scenes. Because I thought there were quite a few. This review so far makes it sound like it's like a 3 out of 10 movie. It's better than that, for sure.
Yeah.
I think it's at its best when we're diverting away from the daughter and the love interest. I really like all the stuff at his other job,
the
like
deli.
the grocery.
Yeah.
I thought that shit was, for the most part, really entertaining, and it kind of leads to having like this weird mini antagonist with like his boss there.
Yeah.
Who's just like the biggest fucking asshole.
Gotta love the asshole boss trope.
Did this guy get a name? I don't even know.
I don't know. Fuck him. Fuck that guy. Does a good job being a dick, though.
Oh, yeah.
Great actor. You know, fun fact, like, you know that, like, Nick Cage was going to play?
Yeah, I read about this.
Yeah. And then he actually turned down the role while he was preparing because he realized that he's going to have to take steroids, which he wasn't going to do. So he ultimately, like, passed on it and then talked Mickey back into taking the role up. You know, worked out for the best. And then, like, the deli counter, you know, like, he just worked at a deli counter. Those were real customers.
Damn, really?
Yeah.
Holy shit. I wonder if like the ones that actually approached the counter were like extras or just straight up real people.
Straight up.
Damn, what about when he cuts his finger and bleeds all everybody?
Oh, I don't know.
That would have been crazy.
That I don't know.
They would have had to like hand out like NDAs to everybody after that shit.
It's true. That's funny as fuck. That I don't know. But I think a lot of his interactions with customers were genuine.
I find it interesting that him working now, like in front of customers instead of like moving boxes in the back, he can't help but go into his desire to like perform.
Yep.
Where he's really just fucking around a lot, trying to shoot this potato salad like a football to some guy, and I thought all that stuff was pretty fun. It seems like it makes him really likable.
Yeah, and I think it in a subtle way kind of builds up in the back of your mind that he's a guy that needs to feel verification and gratification from outside sources other than himself. I think not having a lot of time with him actually wrestling, like I could have gone with a couple more. There was some subtle tricks that helped push the wrestling side of things, like in his day-to-day. I think they were a little too subtle though. Like him walking through like the plastic doors, you know, going out to the deli, like having like the crowd noise behind him and stuff was like a nice like visual trick and good symbolism, but I needed more of that.
Yeah.
I want to feel like he's insane. Like, you know what I mean? Like if you're going to do that, like really lean. I think after, you know, we sever relationships as well, it kind of helps play into the fact that like he gets like extremely manic. You know, after he punches the deli slicer and bleeds out everywhere and goes on a full rampage and is like laughing at himself in the car and stuff. I think that helps sell it for sure. But
yeah,
I want a little bit more in the day to day if you're going to kind of go over the top like that. I don't know, because by the end I'm kind of like, ooh,
like we've kind of forgotten that it's a wrestling movie.
Yeah.
Like halfway through.
Yeah.
Yeah, the wrestling stuff was like super front loaded. Like that first 45 minutes where it didn't seem like there was a narrative yet. Like we're kind of just following him as a wrestler. I really wish like that was the whole movie. Like him trying to stage a comeback to like the big stage. I don't know if we really needed like the heart issues and like of course like the relationships that we've talked about to death so far. Like if it was just rags to riches type thing with him making his way back to the top, I think it would have been a lot better, because that stuff in the middle makes it feel like kind of a run-of-the-mill like Oscar baity movie.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I agree.
That's really disappointing because the portrayal of the wrestling is like spot on.
I agree. I thought that stuff was super fun. It's like my favorite parts of the movie.
Yeah.
So one of my favorite scenes is him taking Polaroid pictures and like that kind of like that meetup, like in that hall with like a bunch of has-beens.
Oh, the legend signing. This is depressing.
But I thought it was a great scene. I mean, it was depressing, but like those moments were a little bit more authentic than the relationship stuff. You can tell like there's internal dialogue. There's like push and pull. Like stuff like that was, I don't know. It was a lot more authentic than kind of like this half-ass bullshit.
Yeah, definitely.
And you're right. It is kind of Oscar baity.
Yeah, man, it's a big letdown, really.
Fuck, we're still negative.
I guess if we want to get like positive, the technical stuff, cinematography wise, I think there were some good long tracking shots. I liked the handheld style. Like it felt like the movie was recorded on old digital cameras. Like it was very grainy and like low budget. I think this was only made for about $6 million, which is like pretty impressive.
I was gonna say like 6 or 7 or something like that.
But then like the cinematography kind of changes when we're in the ring. Like it felt a lot more cinematic during those sections, and thematically I think that's like really fitting. Yeah, because wrestling is a lot of spectacle.
Even like push like wrestling angles for moves and stuff at times, and like you can get up close, and there's even like times where it feels like it shows him in the aftermath and it's like 14 minutes ago. And it kind of looked like a wrestling replay, like when they would play, you know what I mean? Like, oh, this is what happened just backstage right now.
Yeah.
You know, and like stuff like that was, I thought actually paid homage, where I thought was pretty charming.
That whole sequence is awesome. Like,
oh my God, it's brutal.
Jumping between the two timelines, like him getting stitched up.
Staples.
I was meaning to ask you like what you thought about like this deathmatch shit, because this is a real thing.
Yeah.
Not my kind of wrestling,
like
really.
Hardcore.
Yeah, some people refer to it as like deathmatch or trash wrestling, garbage wrestling, because there's like no technicals behind it. Like you just hit each other with objects. That's not really interesting to me. But I think it's really weird and fucked up that people are willing to do it.
Yeah. God, dude, that one guy, he felt like just like your normal run-of-the-mill, like your Amish-looking friend.
Yeah.
And he turns out to be like a fucking, like a masochist. I'm like, what the fuck?
I think they mention him by name as Necro Butcher or something.
Yeah, something weird.
And when I heard that, I'm like, that sounds like a real wrestling name. So I looked it up, and that guy's like a real wrestler.
Is he?
Like, they just got him for the movie to do these scenes, and I guarantee he like took the bumps himself.
Yeah.
Like had shit smashed over his head, and he had no problem with it, I'm sure. I really like the special effects they use to like pull the staples out. I found out after reading that Aronofsky's real inspired by like David Cronenberg. Here's that body, gross out shit playing a part here. The only problem I have with it really is that if a small promotion was bringing in like a former big name, that guy wouldn't be unaware that he was like getting into a violent match like this.
Yeah.
Like it wouldn't be a conversation like, hey man, you cool with staples? Like, that never happens.
Yeah, I mean, I liked like the fact that when the backstage stuff, it felt like it's just like guys at the gym being like, "Dude, you're looking fucking big, man. Like you look good, man." Or, "It's good for you, man. I'm happy for you."
Or like this mutual respect between everybody.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I don't know, that stuff just felt like really authentic, which is like kind of unfortunate because I don't know, everything else feels kind of watered down compared to.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about like the end?
Yeah, we can go there. If I think of anything else, I'll just bring it in afterward.
I like the ending, even though it's like kind of rushed. The whole heart attack stuff is like kind of like ugh, but
I was having flashbacks to when we did like The Sound of Metal, where when we went into that movie, I was really hoping to get like a bunch of like the music industry stuff,
like similar to Whiplash,
like leading up to him losing his hearing in that movie. But then like the hearing stuff happens in the first 10 minutes, and then the rest is like the slow character study stuff, which I like. But yeah, missed opportunity, man. I didn't need the health melodrama.
Yeah.
I'm not into the stories like that, really.
I think they play up his character's inability to accept his situation for sure, but I like the end. I don't think it's as impactful as I want it to be. Like, I love the fact that it ends in the wrestling ring. I think maybe like if I was gonna give this film the benefit of the doubt, maybe that's kind of what it's implying. Like all the other shit that we just watched was bullshit, and like this is what really is important at the end of the day. Like I don't really think it really achieved that. I'm like I'm giving it a lot of room here, but honestly, I thought the ending was it was a little cheap, but I mean I get it. Like her standing there backstage, and she like walks away. You know what I mean? She's no longer there watching.
No, she knows what's about to happen.
Yeah. I don't know. It wasn't as emotionally impactful as I thought it was going to be. Like reading up about the movie before I watched it, I was like, "Oh, this is going to be fucking like so heartbreaking. I'm going to walk away feeling like absolute dog shit." And then I'm like, "No, that's all right, I guess." And then I watched. We both recently just watched La La Land. Independently of each other. And I went into that movie being like, it's going to be like a fun, artsy musical that's like going to be a fun one. And by the end, I'm like, I am fucking heartbroken. I'm miserable. Like, I don't want to watch a movie again for a little while. I just had my heart ripped out.
I expected that one to be Oscar baity, and then it wasn't.
Yeah, it like deserved it.
Yeah.
So there was like something, it was frustrating. I think this movie kind of like, it doesn't play the scales very well. Like there's no balance at all, which is frustrating. But the good shit is good and the bad stuff is bad.
It's very unbalanced. One thing I want to bring up is Mickey Rourke trained for 2 months, like with wrestling coaches, and he's on screen doing a lot of the stunts in this movie. And I thought that was really impressive considering like his age at the time. Someone that had never done that before, like hopping in at 50 and taking a bump off the top rope or like shit like that. I feel like that would be really hard if you're not used to that.
Yeah.
He does a fucking Hurricane Rana in the final scene. I know you don't even know what that is, but it's like the flippy thing from the top rope where he jumps up and puts his legs around the dude's head.
Yeah.
And he like backflips.
Yeah.
He was in camera for that, right?
Yeah.
That's like a lucha move. Like small, tiny, young guys do moves like that.
Like Rey Mysterio.
Yeah, Rey Mysterio has done a billion Hurricane Ranas in his career. And here we have 50-year-old Mickey Rourke doing it for a Hollywood movie. Like, I thought that shit was cool.
Yeah. All that stuff is really fun, man. But yeah, I think ultimately it just becomes like a sum of its parts, unfortunately. Like, it just becomes a little watered down and a little bit of a missed opportunity on multiple occasions, which is frustrating. But I think lesson-wise for like filmmaking, it makes a lot of sense. There was just some missed marks, and there are ways to improve the film. But I think like there's some really stellar acting, and like the script's really good. Let me put it this way: the dialogue is really good. It just needs some more time to be fleshed out in between these heavier moments that ultimately just become kind of just frustrating.
I think I have one more thing to bring in, and this is like more of a question. I don't know if it was intentional or not, but there's a weird scene the first time he goes to visit Cassidy at the strip club, and she quotes Passion of the Christ randomly. And I thought this was really fucking weird. But then I thought about the Ram Jam. His finishing move is him doing a Christ pose off the top rope. The movie doesn't lean super heavily into Christian
sacrificial
symbols.
lamb.
Yeah. Like it's kind of there, I guess. Like, but it's like a really loose, not fully formed metaphor. Like I don't understand why it was there.
Yeah, I mean, he even like does like a speech before the show type of thing. Like, you guys will let me know when I'm done. I mean, I guess kinda. It's just too fast. It's just the pacing is too quick.
Yeah.
Like I want to sit with him, like in the first scene where like he's being handed some cash. I want to like sit with him and like have more moments of just this quiet piece of like being able to like reflect internal dialogue. And I don't know, it's just I want more of that. You could have leaned so much heavier into that. Like we didn't even talk about it, but like there really is only one song that's being played the majority of the time for the score. Like I thought that was really good, actually.
Is it that guitar motif that shows up every once in a while?
Yeah. Give me more of that. Give me some time to just simmer. I want to cool off. It ramps up in the way where it's not chaotic enough. I don't know. It doesn't have the balance. It's something is off.
Yeah.
It needs to take one direction and stick there, stick to the lane, and you just don't get it.
Another thing about the Ram Jam.
The Ram Jam.
Sorry, I hate this name. Do you know who Chris Benoit is?
No, I'm not familiar.
It's a very famous wrestling story because he's the guy that did a double murder suicide.
Okay.
And it was like a very big story in wrestling.
Yeah.
And that incident happened a year before this movie came out. And Chris Benoit, his move was the Ram Jam.
Oh, okay.
And I found that really weird. I don't know if it was like intentional or not.
Okay.
I'm just curious about that. I know that you wouldn't know, but like I couldn't really find anything about that when I looked it up, so I have no idea.
I thought you would have got more out of the film because of like the heart attack stuff.
Why's that?
Because like wrestlers have had to retire over heart attacks, and
yeah,
I know there was a guy that like had come back from wrestling after having a heart attack that like you and Parker were like really excited for him to make his comeback. American guy, almost like chin strap beard. He had a heart attack or like was like really injured for a long time and like couldn't wrestle, and then he like made a comeback. This was a couple of years ago.
I don't think it was a heart attack. I think it was like a spinal issue.
Yeah.
Like vertebrae in the neck were like the disc were cracked or something. Yeah, that did happen. Oh, what? Jerry the King Lawler had heart attacks and still wrestled afterward. He's more known as an announcer nowadays. I guess he came back. That'd be like a pretty like a tie-in with Randy in the movie.
I remember like when we watched the Rumble, like fucking like Booker T showed up. Like Booker T was a guy when I was a kid. Like that was super weird. And then he got out like immediately. Like it's so weird.
That's like kind of what the Rumble's for. Like you can bring back retired wrestlers to come in, do one thing cool they were known for, and then toss them over the top rope, like so that they don't get hurt or anything. I guess the reason why I didn't really think about like real life tie-ins, like injury wise, like at least to that degree, heart attack type shit, is because wrestling culture is a lot healthier now than it was in the mid 2000s.
Like less steroid use. Like, dude, Triple H,
that
era, like where guys were like juiced to the gills. That stuff.
He had a heart attack a year or two ago.
Yeah. Fucking crotch chop, bro. My signature move. I don't know if the podcasting world knows about my crotch chop. Like I don't know if we've ever discussed this.
You had a phase where you like did it about 20 times a day, probably.
Yeah, I don't know what the fuck that was about.
Is that what the movie was missing?
The crotch chops. Yeah, fuck yeah. Give me the showmanship, man.
Yeah, nowadays wrestling culture way healthier. Drugs and steroids like aren't really prominent backstage anymore. Everybody's pretty friendly.
Isn't like USADA involved in wrestling now? Where like they have to test the wrestlers?
It's actually like a policy just that WWE has. USADA is not involved because they're not a real sport or anything.
Gotcha.
But yeah, it's called the wellness policy.
Gotcha.
And you have 3 strikes, and if you get a 3rd strike, they fire you.
That's good. That's actually good.
Yeah. So a lot of wrestlers nowadays, if you put them next to like an 80s guy, they would look tiny.
I was gonna say, like when we were watching the Rumble, like a lot of those guys looked really healthy, like natural. was like more acrobatics. Like it felt like it was so much more springy and like less about like this boasting.
Yeah, old school wrestling. It's all about
how big you are.
like punches and kicks only almost for the most part. Yeah, they're just not weighed down by all this like extra muscle that's like not doing them any good, really. It's all for show.
Steroids are so hard on your body.
Yeah.
Like, that your organs fucking suffer. Like you look good on the outside, but on the inside you are like dying. It's like one of the reasons why I can never do them, even though I'd love to eat a trenbolone sandwich, eat a fucking, you don't know what that is. Like trenbolone is what the steroid is called. Or a fucking D-ball. Like,
I was about to say, I have no idea what that is.
Yeah, Deca. My dad, I shouldn't say this, but my dad took that shit when he was young. He was like, oh yeah, they fucking work. They make you stronger than an ox.
I mean, of course, we all want to look like that.
Yeah.
Like to a degree.
It's so bad for you.
It's unattainable.
Yeah, we've had this conversation a million times.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I thought a lot of it was like, it was okay. Like, I mean, rating-wise,
I think this is a hard one to rate.
It's kind of like a 7 out of 10 for me. It just kind of feels average.
Yeah.
Like a 73 out of 100, somewhere in there.
I think I'm in the same boat as you. I'd probably go around a 7 to a 7.5. When it's like really hitting, it's like 9, 10 level, and then the melodrama shit is like 4 or 5 out of 10.
I agree. I don't know. It's kind of cheap at certain spots. It just turned me off. Even though like the scenes are literally supposed to turn you on according to my biology. So like it didn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, man, it was a letdown. I really thought this would be like an instant favorite of mine, and then
you hadn't watched it before either.
No,
yeah,
this was a like a Hail Mary pick on my end.
You get those every once in a while, man. It just that's the nature of it.
Piss break.
I don't know if I've ever like really expressed my love for what I'm about to recommend.
Okay, I'm intrigued by that
because I think this film was made at the wrong time. And I think it's criminally underrated. And everywhere I look on the internet, and now don't get me wrong, it might be an echo chamber, but according to my algorithm, this film is loved by a lot of people, and it never got the commercial success that it was supposed to achieve.
Okay, do I know what this is?
Yeah, I think so. It's a Disney film.
Okay.
It was just made at the wrong fucking time. And I don't think it's like a perfect film by any means, and it definitely has its shortcomings, but I think it's something so unique. I think its popularity would grow immensely if it was made today.
I think I have an idea of what it is.
Okay. This film, I loved it when I was like 14. It's Tron Legacy.
That's not what I was guessing.
Okay, good. Weird fucking movie.
Wait, is this the 80s one or the reboot one?
This is the reboot.
Okay. I've never seen any Tron stuff.
Good. You don't need to see the original to enjoy this film by any stretch of the means, because I've never actually even seen like the classic Tron. So
yeah, I heard it's okay.
It's okay. Yeah, it was definitely of its time. It actually like paved the way for like a lot of special effects. The way that film was done was Star Wars ended up using like some of the techniques used in that and stuff like that. So
yeah,
I fucking love this movie. Soundtracked by Daft Punk exclusively.
Okay. I remember back when we reviewed Discovery by Daft Punk, you mentioned Tron. Yeah. I think I had an idea that you liked it, but not to what degree, at least.
I probably haven't seen this movie in like 5 or 6 years. Like it's been a long time. I used to wear it out. I used to play a game that was like made like to go in conjunction with the film, and I thought like it might be a little bit of a double header because there is like a full length record, like a full length score for the film as well. So if you kind of want to lean heavy into the soundtrack as well, there are moments in the film that like really help elevate those moments, and I've been eating up Daft Punk for a couple weeks now, and I think it might be a good time to talk about Daft Punk and my love for this film because it's underrated. And Random Access Memories is turning 10 years old. And on May 12th, they're releasing a 10th anniversary edition of the record. So
with unreleased music, apparently.
Yeah, like nine new tracks. And so I want to talk about Daft Punk because it's fucking Daft Punk. They're fucking awesome. And this is a really amazing movie. And I implore you to watch it in the highest quality you can. Like, if you can watch it in 4K, you should, because this is a beautiful film.
That's really funny. I was just revisiting Discovery like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And was like super into it. The big question on my end is, I can't remember if it's Kurt Russell or Jeff Bridges.
Jeff Bridges.
Does he return for this new one?
Yeah.
Hell yeah. I fucking love Jeff Bridges.
Yeah.
He's awesome. Who else is in it? I have like no knowledge about Tron outside of like the Kingdom Hearts level I played when I was a kid.
Olivia Wilde's in it.
Okay.
Can't remember the main character's name, Sam, but his actor is kind of forgotten to time at this point. But well, we'll visit it. We'll get there. It's a lot of fun, and it's got its shortcomings as well. But it should be fun. I'm excited.
Fuck yeah, man. I'm looking forward to that. Before you give me the green light to sign us out, this is something I forget to do every time that we do a podcast. We have social media for Two Dudes, Brews and Reviews. We have a Facebook page. We have Instagram and TikTok under the name The Whitest Guys. That's also our @ on Twitter. If we like see interactions on there, I'll update it more often. But now it feels like I'm just yelling out into the universe with nobody there sometimes.
Yeah, you're speaking into oblivion, bro.
So follow us, and I'll try and make some quality shit on those.
Yeah, reach out, ask questions.
Yeah,
be curious.
Listeners can recommend things if they want to, or like bring up topics for bonus episodes and
troll me. Goddammit, come on.
Yeah, how can we really know that we've made it until we have a hater?
That's what I want. I want a white kid that's 13, but he has the repertoire and vocabulary of a 27-year-old and knows how to get to my heart. Come on. That's what I want. Good plug. We'll come back. We got to do a bonus episode here in a few. But if you could, for the first time tonight, give us a good old-fashioned sign us out.
Adios.